We are recording. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Inside Curling with me, Jungle Jim Jerome. A couple other guys who do it. I'm kidding.
Jungle Jim Jerome's the only one that matters.
Yeah, really. That's the only guy that matters. But I'll tell you what, Kevin, before we bring on our guest. Someone asked me if I curled. And I stick curled. But I have a record, okay? I have a record. I've seen... I know more about curling. I'm the number one guy in the world. I know more about curling for a guy who's never thrown a rock. That's a pretty good record.
I'd say that's pretty good with your hand. But you're like almost a pro stick curler.
I'm almost a pro stick curler, and a couple nights we snuck in as the traditional thing to do is sneak into the rink. It was a big one, Briar or something like that, and ride down the ice on a couple of stones. Those are my drinking days, Kev. Okay,
right. Warren didn't catch you.
Warren didn't catch me, and the ice maker somehow didn't find out about it, so it was good. So, let's get right to it, Kevin. We've got Nick Edin, 8-time champion, is on. That's right, folks. That's right, eight-time champion. Okay, world champion. When you told me, Kev, I'm like, oh my God, he's been to the Worlds 8 times, and how many times has he won? Yeah, 8, Jim. Okay, that was his eighth time.
No, we've been there like 20 times. I don't know the answer to that. We'll find out in a minute.
We'll find out in a minute. Nick, welcome. Congratulations, man. I'm sure it doesn't get any less big, if I'm saying that right, does it?
Thank you so much. No, I think this was one of the sweeter ones, actually. We obviously struggled at the Olympics and needed some redemption, so this one felt really big. I'd rank it probably top 3 of all wins we have, and we played really well to get it, so it felt like it was well earned as well. And I think I've played 15 Worlds.
Wow. How many finals? 8 for sure.
Good question.
Yeah. We'll get our guy on that.
11 probably. 11, I think.
11. My God. What a staggering record. You said this was kind of one of the top 3. Why do you say that?
Just because we kind of needed it, I think, so badly for our confidence, if nothing else. But I think to just kind of prove to ourselves that we're still good at curling, we can still win in the big ones. And kind of a lot of people had counted us out for the Olympics too, with they were proven to be right in that occasion, but I think our level can still be high enough to win these. It's just at the Olympics we started poorly and then kind of started doubting ourselves, and then needed this World Championship to kind of be a little bit of a comeback tour, I guess, and prove to ourselves that we can still do it. So it was important. I feel like that was a big milestone in our careers if we want to continue.
How's your health, Nick? Because we break it out. We always break it down before the event, saying Kevin gives us the favorites, and your name is always in there, of course. But Kevin was saying, well, depends. The old hips and knees, start to go. We know you've been away from the game for some health issues. Bring us up to speed on that. Do you fall apart as soon as you leave the ice after you win a game, and your legs fall off, your hips go off? What's happening? How are you doing?
Fairly well, I would say. The last 3 years have been a bit of a struggle with my lower back. Had a lot of surgeries, so it's kind of catching up, I guess. So it's turned into kind of a long-term pain kind of situation. So it's more about dealing with that. It's never really 100% anymore, but if I can get up to kind of a 70% and curling working okay, at least after I'm kind of warmed up and get into it, then I'm happy. But kind of when I hit the gym or do something else, then around 70%, I'd say, to what it used to be back in the day. But overall, most of the injuries have healed fairly nicely, and no more surgeries on the schedule for now, at least. So that's okay.
You're going to go a whole summer with no surgeries?
Yeah, that's the plan. The summer's just getting started, though, so we might figure something out. But as of what I know right now, I'm in decent shape, and I'll try to kind of work my way up to kind of a stronger body instead of any surgeries planned for now, at least. So we'll see how that goes. But hopefully in a few months, I'll be in a little better shape than I am now. That's the plan.
Hey, Nick. So thanks. First of all, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I know you just got home, and you've been gone, I don't even know how long, a long time. So finally home. Have you changed kind of the way you do things? Like, it looks like your delivery's changed a little over the last few years. Is that just by your body, or just something where maybe you've changed it to be a little less impact?
Yeah, first of all, got home last night. We played that Rock League, obviously, and that was the fourth week away. So it's been pretty much a month now. So bit of time change, but also got to meet the Swedish King yesterday. That was fun. We got a kind of a medal for kind of a long career, I guess, and lots of good results. So that's kind of a very honorary
Congratulations.
thing.
That's awesome. Do you have that with you?
Thank you.
Can you do you have that?
It is somewhere. I can maybe put it out at the end of this podcast, but
yeah, I'd love to see it. If you have you, yeah, we can stop anytime we want. And
yeah,
he probably should have given you his crown.
I don't know about that. I don't know. That's too big a role for me, I think. But a medal was very nice indeed. Yeah, and then about the delivery, definitely changed it a little bit over the years, and I've usually kind of adapted a lot throughout my career. I practiced tons of hours when I was younger, and that's kind of when I built kind of different techniques for different ice conditions. So I've always kind of stepped on the ice beginning of the week, and then I kind of see the amount of curl and what kind of speed it is, and then I decide what kind of technique I want to use. So I've never really stuck to just one technique or one way of throwing it. I've always kind of tried to adapt to the ice conditions. Kind of, I guess, like in golf, it's like shot shaping. You don't play a dogleg right without playing a small fade. So it's kind of like that, I guess. If it curls a lot, then I add a little more set, a little more rotation, a little more maybe like positive release forward. If it's a little straighter, a little less curl, then I would minimize the rotation and maybe kick a little bit wider to get a little bit extra finish on it. So always use kind of different deliveries. But obviously nowadays you see a lot of curl most of the time, and even when teams are putting the broom kind of inside the edge of 8, then the actual delivery goes towards kind of the edge of 12 normally nowadays. So less than 5 feet of curl, almost unheard of the last 4 or 5 years, I would say. So now it's kind of all about minimizing the amount of curl. Most teams are using that kind of a third of a rock set at kind of the first hog line, and then that would translate into maybe 2 feet set at the far hog line. So it's a big set to minimize the curl, and the rotation does the same thing. The sweeping does the same thing. So if it curls 8 feet of actual curl, then the teams are trying to minimize it to maybe 5 to make it more controllable. So we never really try to get more curl than you would just not use the set, I guess.
On your interns too, you go quite a ways inside the hack, like you don't put your foot in the middle of the hack. You tend to put your foot towards the middle of the hack. On your intern only, I think, but you can clear this all up here in a sec. Is that to increase your tangent towards the other end so that exactly what you just said, you don't have to concern yourself with as much the set versus increasing your tangent off the center so that it does it by itself? But I don't notice as much on your out turn. But can you maybe talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, I think my kind of fairly simple theory on delivering on a straight line is kind of with these Marco hacks that are the most common hacks for sure. You kind of see this kind of a curve that is kind of slanted. So if you go in this direction, then a straight line where you kind of push your foot would be kind of from this angle to go here. If you put it on this, the straight line kind of wants to go this way. So I adjust my foot depending on where I want to go. So I always kind of kick straight into the hack and get kind of the momentum going straight towards the broom. So people that kind of puts the foot kind of always in the middle of the hack, then it would be slightly more difficult the wider the shot, I think. And if you always got it on the left side of the hack, then it would be a different kind of force going through as you're kicking forward. So I think if the hack was dead straight, then I would always kind of start in the middle or maybe use the edges a little bit if I need to go really wide. But with that slant, it's kind of built to if you want to go left, then you step right into the hack, and then you can push straight forward, and you get all the momentum going in that same direction. So it's basically just depending on what hack it is, and if that level is, or I mean that kind of curve is mimicking the house basically in the angle. So if you want to go like in turn edge of 12, then I would put it on the right side of the hack a little more so that you can push and get the force going straight towards that point.
Oh, no, it's all good. I was just wanting to ask you about that because I videotaped your delivery quite a lot over the years to be able to show people. You know, you win a lot, so why wouldn't we show young people, well, this is what Nick Edin does, and on the intern side, you tend to throw from the inside of the hack. But probably the events I've ever watched you in probably are Marco hacks. So, you know what I mean? Likely, that's exactly it. On the outturn side, generally, you're pretty much in the middle of the hack, give or take a little bit. Okay. No, I appreciate that because I like to be able to tell the kids that, okay, like this is the video and here's what Nick does. So I think that's pretty important.
Nick, why did you, how, where, when, and why did you fall in love with curling?
In 1998, watching the first Olympics with my parents, basically back home. I think I was 13 at the time. And I had never heard of curling in my life. Like I didn't know a sport with the name of curling existed. So that was interesting watching for the first time. And my mom had grew up in a town called Sollefteå, where the Hasselborgs come from. So I think she went to in like a parallel class to Michael Hasselborg, Anna's and Marcus's dad. So she knew about curling, and I think they played 5 world championships. So that's a big name in Swedish curling and one of the biggest kind of families in Swedish curling over the years. So she knew about curling and kind of thought it was probably like a calm and pretty safe sport and a lot of tactical and technical instead of the other sports that are played like tennis and soccer. They're a little more physical and maybe more prone to injury. Maybe she knew that if I keep up with those sports, then I will give it my all, and that will lead to injuries. I don't know, but I think that was part of the plan from her side. So she kind of thought it looked like fun and that I should try. I didn't think it looked that fun, to be honest, when I was just watching. It was more because the Swedish women's team were doing really well and they medaled that time, so that was cool. But I didn't think it looked like much of a sport, if I'm being completely honest, compared to the other ones, a little more physical that I was doing before that. But then she called a few of my friends from the soccer team, basically made a coup on me and yeah, I'm gonna drive them to an open house at the curling rink. So if you wanna join in, you can do that. And I was like, you did what now? So that was a smart plan by her, I guess. I was like, okay, I guess I'll go and try it then. And then turned out to be way more challenging and way more fun than I ever thought it would be. And everyone said the same thing. We were four guys from the soccer team that tried it, and all of us were hooked right away. We kind of just saw that it was way more of a challenge, I guess, and kind of our skills in other sports didn't matter too much. It was still really difficult to keep your balance and figure out how to even just slide on the ice without falling in the beginning. So we kind of were hooked right away, and then the season after, that's when we kind of started. We formed a team, the 4 of us, right away, and started into like younger juniors at the age of 14. So that was how it got started.
Is it fair to say, Nick, that you're the sort of guy, to your point, what you just said a few seconds ago, that if someone told you you won't be able to do this, Nick, it's too difficult, that you're the guy who goes, oh yeah, oh is that right? Oh yeah. Are you that sort of guy that takes that challenge more than this is too easy or sort of thing? I'm gathering you're more apt to take the challenge to prove that you can do it.
Definitely yes. I think I've changed a little bit on that over the years, though. I think maybe now if someone suggests something and it just, nah, I'm too old for that. That would probably pass on it now. But definitely, if you asked me 20 years ago, then yeah, if someone told me I couldn't do something, I'd prove them wrong.
Hey, Nick. Well, so I guess the obvious question that everybody is going to be tuning in is wondering what's next for Nick Edin, because you've won so much, and you're not old yet, but you're getting there, and you're doing some coaching, and quite a few years actually doing some coaching in out of Vancouver or out of BC. So what I guess where do you go? What's next in for Nick Edin? Are you playing 4 more years of full on curling and like what's going on? What can we tell everybody about well where you're at in your life right now?
It's going to be a somewhat boring answer to that because we haven't had our meetings yet. So we're going to start them up now when everyone is back home. And obviously for the Rock League, it was only three of us there. And like alternate and coach lives in a different city, and so does Christopher, lives in Stockholm. So we're gonna start getting everyone together now and kind of start talking about the 4 years past. Obviously, we have to evaluate kind of one Olympic cycle at a time, and that's both for ourselves, but also for the Swedish Curling Association and the Olympic Committee, and some sponsors involved too. So it's not really a quick decision. It kind of depends on a lot of people, and also if we want to continue, what are the next 4 years going to look like? It's not going to be 1 year at a time kind of thing. So we need to sit down and listen in with a lot of people, and then if we feel that we wants to do something, then we also need to check that off with the Olympic Committee and Swedish curling, so that it's realistic and kind of see that um, what we want to have happen the next 4 years, if that's doable or not. So, not going to be a quick and easy decision, but I think for me, do I want to keep curling? Absolutely. I love it. And if I can combine with something else like coaching or basically anything, like educate myself in something, physio or something along those lines, that would be cool too. But it kind of depends if the next 4 years are realistic or not. And if they are, then I would love to continue. If they're not, then also I'm past 40 now, so I'm not going to just play full time without making any money and basically got to start over when I'm 45. That would be kind of sad. Some things might need to change for the next 4 years to be full out curling. But hopefully we can come to kind of terms with that, and we can still keep playing. That would be fun.
How's it work in Sweden? So obviously, from the Swedish Curling Association, they got to be doing backflips because the women, of course, Anna Hasselborg wins Olympic gold, and you've got mixed doubles winning, and but then also the men win the worlds. So the three disciplines all did really really well. So I guess what does that mean? Like when you go to meet with Swedish Curling Association, other than they have the biggest party ever, how how does the funding does the funding change? Because that's tremendous. Like one sport in one country and it's such domination. How does that work?
Pretty
Um,
good.
yeah.
I think probably pretty well.
Yeah, there are actually a couple of answers, I guess, to that because the Swedish Curling Association is extremely small. I think we have four people working there. So the financial side of things are not good enough to pay players or anything like that. So all the money kind of that we get from curling, that's from the Olympic Committee. It's basically nothing to do with Swedish curling. Except when we play the Europeans and Worlds, then they cover the expenses, but that's not to us per se. It's for any team representing, obviously. So it's more kind of a budget just to cover that event, and then if we qualify to play, then those will be our expenses then, obviously. But the rest of the season, that is a budget we make towards the Olympic Committee, who basically have sponsor money. So it's not much from government or anything like that. It's more sponsor money that they get in each year. So every year looks different. So it's never a guarantee, and all sports get different amounts each Olympic cycle. It depends on how much money is in that kind of pot. And the last few years, obviously, more sports are getting into the Olympics and more athletes are getting into more different kinds of sports. So the money is now spread out on more teams and more individuals. So I'd say right now our budget is probably close to half what it was back in 2014 to cover the season, and that's nothing goes straight to us. It's just to cover costs. So right now it's just over $100,000 to cover the whole entire season for the whole team. So it's not much, to be honest. It's a very low budget that we kind of try to stay in Airbnbs, travel as cheaply as we can. It's always kind of the out in the way back in the plane. Never fancy flights or anything like that. It's pretty long layovers and kind of pretty much the cheapest flights we can find. And then a little bit of a kind of per diem that covers a little bit of the food expense, and then the starting fees or entry fees in tournaments. So all of that comes together to just over 100 grand, and that's covered by the Olympic Committee. So we don't pay for those kind of expenses ourselves if we travel abroad. When we play in Sweden or we do training camp, stuff like that, then usually it's on ourselves. And then what we get as salary, that would be the winnings, pretty much exclusively. So it's quite a bit different than most people think. It's not a lot of government support in that sense. We can apply for a scholarship that would basically cover rent, and that's kind of it. And then you apply for that yearly, and then it's kind of a decision made what kind of level you get of that, and it depends on if you have kids or high rent or high cost of living, stuff like that. So it's more kind of a scholarship that you can apply for so that you can do it part-time or maybe even full-time without kind of risking going bankrupt if you don't perform well and get winnings to get some sort of income.
Well, so that's yeah. Well, I'm so glad I asked, because it's not what I thought. Like I thought, and I think I get a lot of emails from people, or we do on Inside Curling, and a lot of the time I think that most people, including myself, thought that, like, when Sweden did so good in women's, men's, and mixed doubles this year, I thought you would get more. You as curlers would get more than you would have on a bad year. But it doesn't sound like that. You kind of get the same all the time with gold medals or not. I guess that's accurate?
Yeah, that is very accurate. I think what we can hope for after a good Olympics like this, then what we can hope for is for the next quad to have a little bit more of that portion, those sponsor money that the Olympic Committee have, that more of that portion goes towards curling. But then it would be the sport as a whole for the next 4 years. So it's not to us, it's more to all the teams that are in the Olympic run, basically. So it would be exclusively Hasselborg, us, and Team Rano. No other teams
Right.
are high enough on the
That's not what I
rankings
thought at all. So thank you
yeah.
for that. I just didn't. I obviously I think it should be tied to winning, and I thought that you guys would really, from a curling standpoint, really, have an advantage over the other sports that didn't do as well. But anyway, go ahead, Jimmy. Thanks,
Yeah.
Nick. That surprises me, to be honest. That surprises me.
It's an
It's not
interesting
always,
topic.
It's not always very motivating, if I put it like that. That's the negative side of that system. But the good thing is that it kind of provides opportunities for the people that needs it the most. So if you are lower ranked and you need more money to climb the rankings, then usually you have a better opportunity to get them. But if you win a world champion, say, then you're kind of already there. So you don't really need to improve a lot, and then you're not likely to get more the next year, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, Nick, because we've been doing the show for, I don't know, 5-6 years now, and it seems the exposure curling is getting is high, that the awareness of it is getting higher and higher all the time, and yet you hear this story where you say, well, our funding's gone down. Every curler we've talked to at your level has always said, one of the things that's very difficult is to compete because of the cost. You just explained, you're 8-time world champion, and I got to cut budget here. I got to cut budget. That's staggering to me, right? It's like, well, wait a minute, and I think that's what's holding back curling, Nick. And so, what's the next big thing, Nick, that needs to happen with the sport to get it to a level where, okay, we're good? Like my take is, there's got to be more events in Europe. There's got to be more events over there. That's how it has to expand. But you're the guy to ask. What is the next big thing that needs to happen to get this out of that sort of dip?
Yeah, I think probably a lot of things needs to happen. I think compared to other sports, I think curling is extremely cheap. We're selling ourselves really cheap. I think kind of comparing those numbers on TV compared to baseball or other sports. Like buying commercial time on our games is just way too cheap, I guess. And it's kind of the same viewers that would watch baseball and curling. They kind of switch over and watch the same sport. But to buy commercial at a baseball game would be, you probably know those numbers better, Kevin, but probably around 10 times as expensive to buy commercial on those kind of sports. And curling is kind of now a global sport, over 2 million players and close to 80 membership countries. And one of the biggest, most viewed sports during the Olympics. In Sweden, it was the most viewed. So like the numbers are there, but we earn a fraction of even just middle level sports, like sports that are still way smaller in numbers, but would be more on TV. So for us, obviously, we never compete in Sweden. There are no big events in Sweden, and when we play in Canada, that because of the time difference, then no one can really watch, and it's not broadcasted more than kind of on streams that you have to buy. And then if you can only watch one out of three games that day, it's not really interesting for any more people than families or the very closest curling friends we have, I guess. So for us, there's really no good way to kind of be shown a lot on TV. The European Championship, the World Championship, and the Olympics, those would kind of be the only three events where we're shown kind of publicly in Sweden. Not, the Grand Slams, no one really knows about over here. So it's really tricky. I think we need more big events in Europe and maybe also in Asia. A lot of viewers come from Asia. As I was there coaching last year, and it was in Yokohama, 20 minutes outside of um, oh my goodness, I the biggest city in the world, Tokyo. Thank you. Yeah, so yeah, so 20 minutes outside of Tokyo, and they had their kind of nationals being played in a fairly small arena. It held about 4,000 people, but it was packed every draw, like 4,000 people watching every single draw. So I think putting like a world championship or a grand slam or something in that venue, you would have absolutely sold out seats every single draw, way more than any other place, except for a couple of cities in Canada where curling is still massive. So I think, and the viewership on TV, like when we played the university games in Harbin, China in 2009. We played Norway in the final, and in China they had 77 million viewers on a university game, and China wasn't even in it. So that those kind of numbers, it's not even close any other part of the world. So if we can get curling to China or Japan or Korea, I think the numbers would skyrocket. But then would that generate more money to the players? Not sure. Hopefully eventually, but it's not going very quickly. I think the curling group now they're doing a lot of initiatives to kind of raise the awareness, I guess, of the sport, make it a more interesting, quicker game. And then now we're seeing a little bit more come back to the players, but like a world championship level, Europeans, Olympics, stuff like that. If you're um, coming from the right country, you'd get a couple of hundred grand in bonus if you win a gold. But from Sweden, you get a stuffed animal. I mean, we're not earning anything. Like it's a thank you, and then the same budget the next year kind of thing. So if you come from a few countries that don't really have the bonuses from governments and stuff, then you can't really make a living off of curling. It's basically covering expenses and earning a little bit off the winnings, but it's not really putting anything extra on the bank account. You're just kind of paying expenses and doing it full time because you love it, but not really building a future. So if you do it too long, you got a long way to catch up before you can buy a house or start a family, stuff like that. So it's you got to start early enough with those things. If you curl too long only, then yeah, kind of what I've done, I guess. Now it's kind of you have to start combining things. If you go full time for too long, you would have to really start over.
Right. No, so yeah, Nick Solsky, of course, with the curling group, Nick's always talked about, be it a Grand Slam or the Rock League, going to Europe or to Asia. So I agree with it. There has to be big events moving over into that market, no question. Tsunami, we had Tsunami Yoshida on, Nick, about I don't know, what do you think, Jimmy, 2 months ago or something? We had her on. She's just awesome. But she was saying, same as you, that this Olympics, the highest viewed sport during the Winter Olympics was curling in Sweden. And in China and in Japan last time, curling was number one as well. So, it's not just one case of this where curling is just so big. But you're right. It's a matter of trying to get curling over into your time zone so that you can get more people watching, because it is difficult if the event's in Calgary, Alberta, to watch it in Japan, China, Korea, Sweden, Norway. It's difficult because of the time change. No question about that.
Why if you're talking numbers, Nick, like 78 million people watching a curling event in Asia, how is that not turned into huge money from sponsors? Like if you're Ford, car dealer, the Ford, saying, look, here's the numbers we have. They're going to pay something. They're you know what I'm getting at? I mean, it's just staggering to me that.
Yeah, actually, we fun little story here. No names mentioned, obviously, but we have had several different people kind of not working for us, but kind of almost like sponsoring us by trying to get sponsors, and then they would get a percentage. So basically, the sponsorship was that they did that for free and thought they would find lots of sponsors. We got so many titles, and it would be an easy sell. So many hours on Canadian live TV and during championships on Swedish live TV, or even across Europe on like sports channels. So it would be super easy. So we'll take a 10 or 15 or 20%. We kind of started agreeing to pretty much whatever they wanted after a while, because no one really got anything. That's been the problem. So we've even had one for 2 years in Canada, looking at basically 300 of the biggest companies. And it got really close a couple of times, but not a single sponsor was generated. So after 2 years, he basically said, sorry, guys, like I tried my best. He was also looking for other teams at the time, so I had a lot of connections. But after all that, not a single sponsor. So he was like, I won't charge a penny. Obviously, lots of time spent on this over 2 years, but not a single sponsor. So if he can't do it, I'm pretty sure ourselves we we can, obviously, but a lot of time and effort would be needed, and we tried to do that ourselves before as well. And I spent something like 250 hours a year, just administration only. So kind of emailing, calling, going to meetings to try and get sponsors. And for each kind of contact you get, obviously, then you need more phone calls and more meetings. And it generates in a lot of work, but it didn't really generally generate a lot of sponsors. We don't really have any personal contacts. I think in Sweden, most of the sponsorship kind of towards teams like Pelindholm and at Norberg, and maybe even Anna's team, come from personal contacts that they have. They've worked for companies that then kind of stick around to help out a little bit. And if you don't have those personal contacts, sponsoring kind of a middle-aged male team in a sport where you're at the Olympics, you're already successful. It's just not a popular thing to do. It's much more fun to sponsor a young up and coming who needs it more. It's kind of the same philosophy, I guess, as the Olympic Committee money. So we tried pretty hard for quite a few years, and when it didn't really generate more than kind of small amounts, not pocket change by any means, but still not changing our situation a whole lot either. Those kind of hours, especially if two, three, four in the team need to put those 100, 200 hours a year, it's turning into like a half-time job, but not a lot of money coming in from it. Then we kind of just decided it's not really worth it. So if we get a question or get a contact, then obviously we try to follow up as much as we can. But with 200 travel days, that's also a little bit of a challenge, I guess. But we have tried a lot over the years, and the past few years we kind of basically just accepted that we're not going to find a lot of big sponsors. So let's put that time and effort into training and practicing and try to earn more money on tour when we're competing instead, and save our energy and time so that we also have fun doing it, not just getting kind of I guess rejected from a lot of phone calls and stuff like that, which also drains a lot of the energy. I would say when you're calling and trying to basically beg for money, and 97 out of 100 calls turn into a no, then you're not feeling overly thrilled with that time put in.
No, you're right. And remember, Jimmy, we had Brad Guzio on. Well, we have him on. We have him on like we have you on, Nick, quite often. And he was talking about how like he went out and got his sponsor. Same thing, just tons and tons and tons of hours, and you know, Brad telling us that lots of doors get shut when you're trying to do that yourself, because it's just so much work. But yeah, no, I guess that's the way it is throughout curling mostly now. Jimmy, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think in Sweden as well, if I would add, because obviously we've heard a lot of the numbers floating around in Canada, especially when we had kind of an agent from Canada working for us and other top teams. So I would say generally like a really big sponsor in Sweden, if we could get a really big sponsor for a year, would not even be 10% of the bigger sponsors for the top teams in Canada. And those kind of numbers we've basically only found once. And that was a former curler that was top 10 richest people in Sweden who owns 35 companies. So that was basically for 1 year, an Olympic year. He thought it was a lot of fun helping out, but basically also saying straight up front that this doesn't really give anything back to me. It's more because I think it's fun helping you guys out, and I hope this helps. But 1 year after that, it was kind of yeah, back to what it used to be. And then our total sponsorship, all the things we had in sponsorship combined, wasn't even that sum, together with like products and everything. We got free lunch and free gym memberships and playing pool and a bit of golf, kind of memberships, those kind of things. But it's not really generating food on the table. It's just kind of you get some stuff for free that maybe you wouldn't really buy if you didn't get it for free. So those kind of numbers that are floating around in Canada, we've never been close to those kind of things. The sponsorship would be like 30 grand for a season. That would be a massive sponsor for us. The second biggest we've ever had, and the biggest was just a little bit more than that.
Yeah. What before we leave this, it must be you take a no, as you see, you get like 97 or 8 no's or almost 100% no's. Is there a feeling, Nick, that you're saying, I mean, what do we have to do, man? What what more do you want me to do? I've won 8 world championships. I've been to the final a bunch of times, and the best curler in the world. Here's the viewership that's going up and up and up all the time. What is their answer, Nick? Why are they saying no? Is there a general response?
Good question. Like I touched on earlier, obviously we're not putting in those hours as much anymore either, because we kind of just found that it didn't generate enough for it to be worth it. We wanted to put that time into our curling. And when we travel 200 days a year, you also need to recover both mentally and physically, and you need to hit your gym hours as well if you want to keep it up without injuries and stuff like that. You got to be ready for those kind of 3 or 4 week tours when you can't do a lot of training. So it's also kind of a priority, I guess, for us to not put the same hours in. So that would be an easy solution if we want to earn a little bit more, is to put those hours back in again. But then something else would have to give. So I'm not sure that's the answer for us. The other thing would be to maybe play a little bit more on tour. We could earn more winnings if we compete a little bit more. But then also that puts a lot more strain on the body, more traveling and less training, more just kind of competing and time changing, all of those kind of things. Um, uh, Other than that, I think there's not much we can do in terms of sponsorship from Olympic Committee or more money from the Swedish Curling Association. It kind of just is what it is. From winning Europeans, Worlds, Olympics, we'll never earn money doing that unless we have a sponsor that includes a bonus to win those kind of medals, but that never generates anything in itself. So it gives kind of opportunities to find more sponsors, but unless we find those sponsors, it's not generating anything. So I think after being this long in the sport, we kind of just accepted that we'll never get rich doing this, and we can earn a little bit more than what we do by putting more time and effort into trying to find sponsors. But is that at the end of the day going to be worth it and feel worth it to earn a little bit more money for a lot more kind of time and effort put in? Probably not going to make a whole lot of difference when we look back on our careers. If we earn $1,500 more a month, is that going to be life changing? No. Is it possible? Maybe. But at the same time, we can earn that kind of money just playing better on tour as well. So that's what we have been trying. But yeah, also not putting in the best results on tour. The Grand Slams haven't been as successful for us, and that's maybe where we need to put more effort in. Try and earn a little bit more money on tour, but then also maybe find a few more sponsors. So a good combination, I guess.
I'll tell you how you're going to get a lot of views, Nick. Okay, we need more viewers to get more money. Oscar and Mark Kennedy could go at it again. That that got lots of views. Thanks for weighing in on this. Yeah, what's your whole take on the thing? I thought it was fantastic. I really did. To be honest, the curling, they get a little feisty, got a little spicy. But you're the first guy who was there that we've had on, and what are your thoughts? What's your take on the whole thing?
Yeah, obviously it went extremely viral. I think in our sport, there's never been anything like it, and at that scene, the Olympics, it just kind of made a massive splash. And I think if that would have happened at any other smaller event, it would have been kind of a small thing. It would have blown over in a couple of days, probably. But at the Olympics, it just made a massive, splash, especially in media, and a lot of kind of couch expert, I guess, that they weighed in on the situation without maybe knowing too much about it. And a lot of people from, yeah, especially Canada and Sweden, they weighed in on this a lot, and we kept getting more and more questions, and every single interview had questions on this topic. So at the time, it was very kind of, I guess, unfortunate or tiring or consuming a lot of energy, and not ideal in any means. But at the same time, I think what happened kind of on the ice was more trying to highlight, I think, what's been a bit of an issue with the rules for some time now. I think there needed some clarification from the WCF. With like ever since they started with the electronic handles, I think this had been kind of something that is pretty common at the Europeans and Worlds. Obviously, for a lot of other nations, they play those kind of every year, and it's become very common for the players to stick to holding the handle only, nothing else, because obviously the metal part of the handle is the only thing that can feel if your hand is touching it or not. So when you're using those kind of electronic handles, it's just kind of an automatic that you hold that metal part of the handle, nothing else. But I think for Canadian teams, not using those electronic handles at the Brier and at the Olympic trials, and not kind of qualifying for the same amount of Worlds and Olympics and stuff, it's not that often that the teams get to play with these handles. So then maybe it's kind of, because if you don't use the handles, then obviously it's more kind of an umpire standing somewhere close and can watch it on the hog line. But then curling kind of wanted to get away from that, so it's not a human trying to see if you've let go of the rock before the hog line or clearly before the hog line, as the rule says. We kind of wanted to get away from that, I guess, at the bigger stage, so it's not a human error, because they're also just volunteers that have no pay, umpiring at big events. So the handle was a solution to that problem. But then obviously you need to hold the part of the rock that can measure. Like you have a magnet underneath the ice, and then you have a metal portion of the handle. And if your hand is touching that, when it reaches that metal stripe underneath the ice, then it goes off. It shows red. And if you let go of it, nothing is touching that metal, then it shows green. So to me, or to us, or to any European, or basically any team, I think, that have played at that stage using the handles, it's kind of a no-brainer. And that's what kind of was surprising to us, that it seemed to be kind of unknown, or that this would have been a new thing. It hasn't come up before, but I think this has been nothing new for us, at least since at least 2018, when the rule was implied, and the handles have been used for way longer than that. So that metal portion on the handle obviously is there because that's the one measuring. So to me, it felt really strange that this turned into such a heated debate, and kind of talking over like, oh, isn't a rule everywhere. Yeah, but when you're using these handles, it is a rule, and you should know the rules. If you're playing Olympics, you should know the rules you're playing by. So to me, the whole thing, the issue was that some teams obviously hadn't read up on the rules that were stated. You need to deliver by the handle only, and it's the metal part. That's the only thing that can measure if you're holding it or not. So if you let go of that part, it shows green, and then you poke some other part of the rock, well, that light will still show green. But is it before or after the hog line, or actually the T line? That's the rule. Once you've passed the T line, you've started the delivery, and then you're not allowed to touch any other part than that metal part of the handle. Then, if you let go of the rock, you can touch the metal part of the handle again, like double tap, or do kind of a two-part delivery, if you will. If you backswing, you might need to re-grip. So that part is allowed, but it's only the metal part of the handle. That's the only thing that electronics can measure. So to us, it's kind of I don't know, strange debate that kind of happened, and the reaction was so strong because they didn't know the rules. So that to me was the whole kind of issue. It's not really the team alone. Like we don't really have anything against those people. We played against them for 20 years, and we like the guys off the ice, on the ice. This has been a bit of an issue, and I know they've seen footage of this before, so that it was kind of a surprise that it came up when we're using those electronic handles, and it didn't come up during slams. Well, the handles are not used then. So the whole thing is that when you use those handles, you're only allowed to part the metal or touch the metal part of the handle, and that is kind of a rule that has been very commonly used at championships. So I think maybe those should be used at the Brier and the trials, if then that will become an issue. If your delivery is not complying to that when you're in a championship, then it will be difficult to play that way.
Well, I definitely agree, Nick, that the Brier, the Scotties, provincials, the Grand Slams, all those events should definitely have the electronic handles, just because then it becomes normal, completely normal, and everybody's used to it, and away we go. I 1,000% agree that all the big events in our curling, our wonderful sport, need those handles. Yes, that would be huge.
Nick, we really appreciate you coming on. I'll tell you what you do have a handle on is winning world championships. you got a good handle on that. Congratulations, man! What you're doing in all of sport, not just curling, but in all of sport, is an incredible thing. And congratulations on what you're doing. I'm so glad to hear that you're not talking about retirement. Curling needs you for the growth of it, and just how good your team is. And more yelling and more F-bombs on the ice. Okay, that would be good. Okay, I love.
And Nick.
Pool table.
I got to get you into this basement here one day and play some pool.
Nice. Yeah. I'd be up for that for sure.
You're playing. As we sign off here with you, I'm gathering. You and I were shooting the shit about it before. I'm gathering you're a professional pool player.
I wouldn't say professional, but I definitely play against quite a few good players that are kind of top 40, top 50 in Sweden. And when I'm playing well, okay. I can kind of hang with them a little bit, but obviously in best of 10 matches, I wouldn't have a chance against those guys. But in just one or two, when I'm in really good form, then yeah, I can definitely play with them a little bit. But then most of the events I play would be handicap events where you kind of like in golf, you get kind of a handicap depending on your level. So those are most of the competitions I play, but I've played a few on the Swedish pool tour against kind of actually good players. So, but I don't always hold that standard. I kind of need to amp up and play a few weeks at home first before I'm in that kind of form.
It only takes one, Nick. Okay, keep taking them on, baby. Okay, keep taking them on. It only takes one. Nick Edin is our guest, the 8-time world champion. His 8th was just a couple of weeks ago, the reigning world champion. Thanks so much, Nick, for coming on, and congratulations, man. What a career and unbelievable things you're doing in the sport. Right on, man. Nick,
thank you so
very
much,
Nick. Can't wait to see you again here one of these days.